Emma Johnson, a lieutenant, was gripping her boarding pass like it was a lifeline, her eyes tired from scanning the crowded terminal. 6 months in Iraq had finally come to an end, and she was headed stateside. Even though the memories weighed heavy, the thought of seeing her family again brought a little smile to her face. First-class boarding for Flight 535 to Wyoming, the loudspeaker blared. Emma was taken aback. First class? She looked down at her ticket just to be sure. And wouldn't you know it, plain as day, first class was printed right there. Probably an upgrade or maybe some kind of screw-up, but she wasn't about to complain. She started down the jet bridge, her military boots clicking against the metal like a drumbeat. Stepping onto the plane, that familiar smell of recirculated air hit her. The first-class section was something else. All shiny surfaces and seats that looked like they were made of clouds. "Welcome aboard, ma'am," a flight attendant said with a warm smile. "Your seat's just over there to your left." Emma gave her a nod and headed towards her seat. She tossed her backpack in the overhead bin and plopped down in the roomy seat, enjoying having some legroom for a change. A far cry from those cramped transport planes she'd been riding in. While the other passengers filed in, Emma closed her eyes for a second, just trying to catch a break. The cabin filled up with the sounds of people talking and luggage being shoved around. "Excuse me." A snippy voice cut through her peace. Emma opened her eyes, and there stood some fancy, dressed fella, probably in his 50s, with a look on his face like she'd just kicked his dog. He gave her uniform the once-over, his eyes stopping on the lieutenant's bars on her sleeve. "I believe you're in my seat," he said, and you could hear the sneer in his voice. "Sorry, sir, but this is the seat they gave me," Emma said, keeping her cool. She reached for her boarding pass to double-check, just in case. The guy's frown got even worse. There must be some kind of mistake. This is first class. He didn't have to say it. Emma knew what he was getting at, and that familiar knot started to form in her gut. She'd run into this kind of prejudice before, but it never got any easier. "I'm aware, sir," she said, handing him her boarding pass. "Like you can see right there, they gave me this seat." He snatched the ticket right out of her hand, squinting at it like he was looking for a hidden message. Just then, a flight attendant walked up, smiling but looking kind of concerned. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, looking back and forth between Emma and the guy. "Yes, there is," the guy snapped, his voice getting louder. "This person says she's got a first-class ticket. There's got to be some mistake." The flight attendant took a peek at Emma's boarding pass, not giving anything away. "Everything looks correct, sir. Lieutenant Johnson is assigned to seat 2A, yes." The guy's face turned red as a beat. "This is bullcrap. I paid a fortune for this first-class seat, and I ain't gonna—" "Sir," the flight attendant cut him off. But she was still polite but tough about it. "I'm going to have to ask you to keep your voice down. Lieutenant Johnson has a legit first-class ticket, and she's got every right to be sitting right here. Now, if you'll just find your own seat, we need to get ready for takeoff." The guy huffed and puffed, gave Emma one last dirty look, and then stomped off to his own seat. Emma took a deep breath, trying to slow down her heart, which was pounding like a drum. She could feel everyone on the plane staring at her. Some were just curious, but others looked kind of awkward. The flight attendant turned to Emma, her face softening a little. "I'm real sorry about all that, Lieutenant. Anything I can get you before we get this bird in the air?" Emma shook her head. "No, thank you. I'm all right." While the plane was taxiing down the runway, Emma looked out the window, her mind replaying what just happened. She'd been through firefights in Iraq, but somehow this thing with the jerk on the plane rattled her more than any bullets ever did. The engines roared and the plane took off, climbing up above the city and into the clouds. Emma thought about home, about her family waiting for her, and about that guy who tried to tell her she didn't belong in that seat. Once the seatbelt sign went off, Emma reached into her backpack and grabbed a small notebook and pen. An idea started to brew in her mind. Maybe she could turn this whole uncomfortable mess into something good. She started writing, her pen flying across the page. "Dear sir," she began, then paused, thinking hard about the right words. This wasn't about getting angry or getting even. It was about trying to understand each other. While Emma was writing, she didn't see that guy from earlier watching her from across the aisle. He had this look on his face, like he was both ashamed and curious at the same time. The flight attendant came back over, smiling gently. "Lieutenant Johnson," she said softly, "I couldn't help but notice you're writing something. Mind if I ask what it is?" Emma looked up, kind of surprised by the question. She paused for a second before answering. "It's a letter. For that gentleman who had a problem with my seat earlier." The flight attendant's eyebrows shot up. "A letter? That's not what I figured. Mind if I ask why you're writing it?" Emma looked down at her notebook, then back up at the flight attendant. "I just think that even when things are tough, there's always room to understand each other better. I thought maybe if I shared a little of my story, it might help close that gap." The flight attendant's eyes got wide. She was clearly impressed. "That's incredibly kind of you, Lieutenant. Mind sharing a bit of what you've written?" Emma paused for a second, then nodded. "Well, I started by introducing myself and explaining why I'm on this flight. I thought it might give him a little perspective, you know." Just as Emma started reading her letter out loud, the plane hit a bump, making her stop in the middle of a sentence. The seatbelt sign lit up, and the flight attendant had to hurry off to help the other passengers. Emma put her notebook away, thinking she'd get back to the letter later. The turbulence got worse, making the plane bounce around, and folks started gripping their armrests, getting a little ANX. ES murmurs filling up the cabin. Emma stayed cool as a cucumber, her military training kicking in. Across the aisle, she noticed an older woman who was clearly freaked out. "It's all right, ma'am," Emma said softly, trying to reassure her. "Turbulence is totally normal. Just breathe slow." The woman nodded, her knuckles white from gripping the seat so hard. Emma kept saying calming things, not just to the older woman, but to others nearby who looked a little green around the gills. The plane finally evened out, and Emma saw the guy who'd given her trouble earlier staring at her. He had this look on his face, like he was surprised and grudgingly impressed. Emma gave him a quick nod before turning back to her notebook. She started writing her letter again, just letting her thoughts spill out onto the paper. She thought about her time in Iraq, the way she'd bonded with other soldiers, all different races and backgrounds, and what she'd learned about people during wartime. Memories started flooding back, and Emma remembered her first day of basic training. She was standing in line with all kinds of folks, men and women, all there because they wanted to serve their country. She thought about her best friend, Monica, a Latina soldier from Texas who'd saved Emma's life during an ambush near Kabul. Emma paused, trying to figure out how to put all this into words. She wanted to help that guy understand that her uniform wasn't just about her. It was about all the sacrifices made by countless others, each with their own story to tell. Lost in her thoughts, Emma didn't even notice the flight attendant coming up with a drink cart until she spoke. "Care for something to drink, Lieutenant?" Emma blinked, snapping back to reality. "Just water, please." While the flight attendant poured her water, she glanced at Emma's notebook. "Still working on that letter?" Emma nodded. "Yeah, but it's turning out to be harder than I thought." The flight attendant smiled. "Sometimes the hardest things to say are the most important, but I'm sure you'll get your message across." Emma smiled back as the flight attendant moved on. She took a sip of water and went back to writing, describing how proud she was to wear that uniform, not just for herself, but for all the folks who'd come before her. Time flew by as she got lost in her thoughts. Finally, the captain's voice came over the intercom, crackling a bit, announcing that they were starting their descent into Wyoming. Emma finished the letter with just a simple request for understanding and signed her name. She folded the pages up nice and neat and slipped them into an envelope that the flight attendant had given her earlier. As the plane started to come down, Emma felt a light tap on her shoulder. She turned around and saw that older woman she'd calmed down during the turbulence, smiling warmly. "I just wanted to thank you," the woman said, her voice full of gratitude. "Your kindness meant the world to me. Are you headed home?" Emma smiled back. "Yes, ma'am, I am. After 6 months away, I'm more than ready to see my family." The woman's face softened. I'm sure they'll be tickled pink to have you back. Thank you for your service, dear." As they talked a little longer, Emma noticed that fella from earlier watching them. His face was hard to read, but there was something different about him, maybe a little curiosity, maybe even a touch of regret. The plane touched down smooth as butter, and folks started grabbing their bags. Emma took a deep breath, clutching that envelope in her hand. Girding her loins, she walked over to that guy while he was reaching for his carry-on. He tensed up when he saw her. You could tell he was worn out. "Excuse me, sir," Emma started, her voice steady. "I wanted to give you this." She held out the envelope to him. The guy hesitated, a little confusion replacing that defensive attitude he'd had before. "What's this?" he asked, sounding a bit rough. "It's a letter," Emma explained. "I thought it might help clear some things up. You don't have to read it now, but I hope you'll take the time to look it over." The guy stared at the envelope for a second before slowly reaching out and taking it. "Thank you," he mumbled, not sounding angry anymore. As people started getting off the plane, he cleared his throat. "Lieutenant," he started, his voice low. "I think I owe you an apology." Emma raised an eyebrow, surprised he was saying that. "Sir." The guy shifted his weight, not looking her in the eye. "I didn't behave myself back there. I made assumptions I shouldn't have made." Emma nodded, appreciating him trying. "Thank you for saying that. It takes guts to admit when we're wrong." The guy finally looked her in the eye, with a little bit of respect in his gaze. "I've got a lot to learn. I lost my brother in Iraq 2 years ago. He was a soldier too." His words hung in the air, a shared understanding of sacrifice and loss that made that whole mess from earlier seem a million miles away. As they walked toward the exit, the guy turned to Emma one last time. "Lieutenant Johnson," he said, his voice full of emotion. "Welcome home." Emma felt a lump in her throat as she stepped off the plane and into the busy terminal. The whole thing left her with all kinds of feelings, hope, sadness, and a new sense of what she was supposed to be doing. As she walked through the airport, she thought about how just a regular flight home had turned into something way more important. She was lost in her thoughts when she heard someone running up behind her. A voice yelled out of breath, "Lieutenant Johnson, wait." Emma turned around, surprised to see that guy from the plane rushing toward her, his carry-on bag bouncing all over the place. "I'm glad I caught you," he said, finally getting to her. I read your letter." Emma raised her eyebrows, kinda shocked. "You already read it?" Emma asked, surprised. "I wasn't expecting that." The guy nodded, his face showing all kinds of emotions. "I couldn't wait. Your words, they really hit home. I realize now just how narrow-minded I've been." Emma looked closely at his face, seeing he was being sincere. "I appreciate you saying that. It's not easy to face up to our own biases." No, it's not," he agreed, running a hand through his thinning, gray hair. "But it's got to be done. Your letter made me see things differently. I'd like to buy you a coffee, if you've got the time. I got some questions, and I'd love to hear what else you're thinking." Emma hesitated, checking her watch. Her family wasn't due to arrive for another hour, Wyoming's traffic being what it is. After thinking for a second, she nodded. "Sure, I got some time." They walked over to a little coffee shop in the terminal. The hustle and bustle of all the travelers made a low hum of background noise while they sat down at a small table with their drinks. The guy stuck out his hand. "I'm Mark, by the way. Mark Davis. Never really introduced myself back on the plane." Emma shook his hand firmly. "Lieutenant Emma Johnson. Nice to meet you, Mark." A little awkward silence settled in while they sipped their drinks. Mark seemed lost in thought, drumming his fingers lightly on the table. After a bit, he spoke up. "In your letter, you wrote about your time in Iraq. My brother, Alex, he served over there too. He didn't make it back." Emma's face softened. "I'm so sorry for your loss, Mark. Losing someone you served with is hard enough, but losing a brother," Mark nodded, staring off into space. "It's been 2 years now, but some days it still feels like it just happened. When I saw you on the plane, I guess I was just angry. Angry that you made it back when Alex didn't." "That's completely understandable," Emma said softly. "Grief can make us do things we wouldn't normally do. But it doesn't excuse how I acted," Mark insisted. "Your letter, it made me realize how disappointed Alex would have been in me. He always believed in being fair, in judging people by what they do, not by how they look." While Mark was talking, Emma could see the pain and regret written all over his face. She reached into her bag and pulled out a worn-out photograph. "This is my unit in Iraq," she said, sliding it across the table to him. Mark picked up the photo, looking at all the faces of the soldiers, men and women, all different races, standing together, arms around each other's shoulders. Their uniforms were dusty, and they looked tired, but they were all smiling. "That woman next to me is Monica," Emma explained. "She saved my life during an ambush. That guy at the end, that's Ahmed, our interpreter. He risked everything to help us. We all came from different backgrounds, but none of that mattered over there. We were a family." Mark traced the faces with his finger, his expression thoughtful. "Alex used to say something like that in his letters. I guess I never really got it until now." As they kept talking, Emma shared more stories from her time over there. The local kids they helped, the schools they protected, and the close friendships she made with the other soldiers. She could see Mark's way of thinking changing, his old ideas fading away. "You know," Mark said after a while, "I've spent the last 2 years angry at the world, blaming everything and everyone for Alex's death. But, listening to you, I realize I've been doing a disservice to his memory." Emma leaned forward, speaking sincerely. "Your brother gave his life serving his country. The best way to honor him is to live by the things he believed in: fairness, equality, and kindness." Mark nodded, wiping his eyes. "You're right. Alex would want me to do better, to be a better person." As their conversation started to wrap up, Mark reached into his briefcase and pulled out a business card. "I run a support group for vets," he said, handing the card to Emma. "We help soldiers get back to normal life after being in the service. I'd be honored if you'd think about joining us sometime." Emma took the card, a smile spreading across her face. "I'd love that, Mark. Thank you." As they stood up to go, Mark hesitated for a second, then stepped forward and gave Emma a quick, sincere hug. "Thank you for your service, Lieutenant Johnson," he said softly. "And thank you for opening my eyes today." Emma hugged him back, feeling lighter. What started out as a tense situation had turned into a real connection between two people. As they said goodbye, Emma couldn't help but feel hopeful. If this talk could help bridge the gap between her and Mark, maybe there was a chance to fix even bigger problems. She walked over to the baggage claim, still thinking about everything that had happened. While she was waiting for her duffel bag to show up on the carousel, Emma noticed a little girl staring at her, looking amazed. The girl, not more than 8 years old, tugged on her mom's sleeve and pointed. "Mommy, look. She's a soldier." The mother smiled, apologizing to Emma. "I'm sorry, she's just really excited. She wants to be a soldier when she grows up." Emma knelt down so she was eye to eye with the girl, her heart feeling warm because the kid was so enthusiastic. "Is that right? Well, it's a big responsibility, but I bet you'd be great at it." The girl's eyes lit up. "Did you fight bad guys? Were you scared?" Emma chuckled. "Sometimes, yeah, but being brave doesn't mean you're never scared. It means doing what's right, even when you're afraid." The girl nodded seriously, taking Emma's words to heart. Her mother, watching them, smiled gratefully. "Thank you for your service," the mother said quietly. "And thank you for taking the time to talk to her. It means a lot," Emma said as she stood up, smiling warmly. "Your daughter reminds me of why I do what I do." As the family walked off, Emma saw her duffel bag on the carousel. She lifted it onto her shoulder, the weight of it feeling familiar and comforting. After all the ups and downs of the day, she walked towards the exit, her heart feeling lighter with every step. Home was just beyond those doors. Her family, her own bed, and the life she'd put on hold for 6 months. As she stepped through the sliding doors into the warm Wyoming afternoon, Emma took a deep breath. The air here was different. It smelled like home, like freedom, like anything was possible. She looked over the crowd of people waiting, searching for the faces she knew so well. And then she saw them, her mom and dad and little brother, all holding a big welcome home banner covered in American flags. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes, and she started walking faster. Her mom was the first to spot her, letting out a happy shout and running towards her. In a flash, Emma was wrapped in a group hug, surrounded by the love and warmth of her family. As they hugged, Emma felt the last bit of stress drain away. She was home. She was safe. After all the battles she'd fought, both overseas and on that plane, she finally understood that kindness and understanding could fix even the biggest problems. Her dad stepped back, his eyes shining with pride. "Welcome home, sweetheart. We've missed you so much." Emma smiled, her heart bursting with happiness. "I missed you too, Dad, more than you know." As they walked towards the car, her family started firing questions at her about the flight and her time in the service. Emma hesitated, not sure how to explain what happened with that guy, Mark. Her mom, who always knew what was going on, noticed her pause. "Is everything okay, honey? Did something happen on the flight?" Emma took a breath, thinking carefully about what to say. "Actually, Mom, something did happen, something I didn't see coming." Her mom frowned, looking worried. "What do you mean? Was there some kind of trouble on the plane?" Emma shook her head, smiling a little. "Not really trouble, exactly. It's kind of a long story." Her dad put his arm around her shoulders. "We got plenty of time, sweetheart. Tell us all about it on the way home." As they got into the family car, Emma found herself in the back seat next to her younger brother. She started telling them about what happened on the flight. Her family listened closely, their faces changing from worried to surprised to proud as she told them about Mark and the letter she wrote. "Oh, Emma," her mom said, turning around in her seat to look at her. "I'm so proud of how you handled that. That couldn't have been easy." Emma shrugged, all kinds of feelings bubbling up inside her. "It wasn't at first. But then I remembered something my commanding officer always used to say. The biggest victories aren't won on the battlefield, but in the hearts and minds of people." Her younger brother, Max, who'd been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. "So, did you punch the guy?" "Max," their mom scolded. But Emma just laughed. "No, little bro, I didn't punch him." Sometimes words are stronger than fists. As they drove through their hometown, Emma looked around like she was seeing it for the first time. The diner where she used to hang out with her friends, the park where she learned to ride her bike, and the recruitment office where she signed up for the military. Everything felt both familiar and strangely new at the same time. "We kept your room just like you left it," her dad said, looking at her in the rearview mirror. "Though your mom might have dusted a little bit." Emma smiled, feeling thankful for the normal things. After months of strict military life and the stress of being deployed, the thought of her childhood room felt like a little slice of heaven. As they pulled into the driveway of their simple two-story house, Emma's throat tightened up. A banner hung from a porch said, "Welcome home, Lieutenant Johnson." Red, white, and blue balloons were bobbing in the breeze. "Surprise!" her family cheered as they got out of the car. Emma blinked back tears, feeling overwhelmed by all the love and support. She walked up the familiar path to the front door, memories rushing back. She remembered running down that path as a kid, leaving for basic training with all kinds of feelings, and the tearful goodbyes before every deployment. Inside, the house smelled like home cooking and her mom's favorite candles. Emma dropped her duffel bag by the door and took a deep breath, just letting the familiar feeling wash over her. "You hungry, sweetheart?" her mom called from the kitchen. "I made all your favorites." Emma's stomach growled, reminding her that she hadn't eaten much since getting on the plane. "Starving," she admitted with a grin. They all sat down around the dining table, their plates piled high with good comfort food. Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in months. Just sharing a meal with her family, something she dreamed about during those long nights in Iraq, felt almost too good to be true. While she ate her mom's famous pot roast, Emma started telling them more stories about her time in Iraq, the friends she'd made, the tough times she'd been through, and the surprising moments of beauty she'd seen in a war-torn place. Her family listened closely, asking questions and offering support. Even Max, who usually only cared about video games, seemed hooked on her story. As dinner was ending, her dad cleared his throat, sounding serious. "Emma, there's something we need to talk about." Emma looked up, feeling a little worried. "What is it, Dad?" He looked at her mom for a second before speaking. "You remember Mr. Thompson from down the street? He owns that security company." Emma nodded, not sure where this was going. "He came to us a few weeks ago," her dad continued. "He's looking to hire veterans, and he specifically asked about you. Said he'd be honored to have you join his team." Emma blinked, surprised. "But I just got home. I haven't even decided if I'm going to re-enlist yet." Her mom reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "We know, honey. We're not trying to rush you. We just wanted you to know there are some good chances here if you decide to stay." Emma nodded slowly, her mind racing with ideas. The thought of a steady job close to home sounded good, but so did the idea of staying in the military. Emma had worked hard to become a lieutenant, and part of her still felt like she had more to offer. "Thanks for letting me know," she said after a minute. "I'll definitely think about it." As they cleared the table and went into the living room, Emma's mind started to drift. She found herself lost into thought. The whole day, from that run-in with Mark to that surprising job offer, had given her a lot to think about. Needing some time to herself, she said, "Excuse me," and went out onto the back porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky with bright colors of orange and pink. Emma leaned against the porch railing, just letting the peace of the evening wash over her. A few minutes later, she heard the screen door creak open behind her. Her mom stepped out, putting a soft sweater around Emma's shoulders. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked gently. Emma smiled, thankful for her mom always understanding. "Just thinking about everything. It's a lot to take in." Her mom nodded, standing next to her while they both watched the sunset. "I can't even imagine everything you've been through." They stood there together quietly for a few minutes before her mom spoke again. "You know, when you first told us you were joining the military, I was so scared. I didn't want my little girl to be in danger." Emma turned to look at her mom, seeing a mix of pride and worry in her eyes. "But after today," her mom continued, "hearing how you handled yourself on that flight, I realized something. You're not just my little girl anymore. You've grown into a strong, kind woman who's making a real difference in the world." Emma felt tears come to her eyes. She hugged her mom tightly. "Thank you, Mom. That means more than you know." As they hugged, Emma started to feel a sense of clarity. Even though she didn't know what was going to happen next, she knew she was strong enough to handle it, and that she had her family to back her up. The screen door creaked open again, and her brother Max poked his head out. "Hey, sis, there's someone here to see you." Emma and her mom looked at each other, surprised, before heading back inside. When they walked into the living room, Emma froze, shocked. Standing at the entrance, looking a little uncomfortable but determined, was Mark. "I hope you don't mind," he said, sounding a little unsure. "I found your address from the envelope you gave me, and I wanted to talk to you, if that's okay." Emma's family looked at her, confused. Emma took a deep breath, realizing the surprise visit could be a chance to connect two important parts of her life. "Everyone," she said, her voice steady, "this is Mark. We met on the plane today, and I think we both have something to say." A quiet tension filled the room as Emma's family looked at Mark, feeling a mix of curiosity and worry. Her dad was the first to move, stepping forward and holding out his hand. "Welcome to our home, Mark. I'm Robert, Emma's father." Mark shook his hand, his grip strong. "Thank you, sir. I'm sorry for showing up unannounced." Emma's mom, always being a good host, quickly jumped into action. "Can I get you something to drink, Mark?" "Coffee." "Just water, please," Mark replied, never taking his eyes off Emma as her mom headed to the kitchen. Emma took a deep breath. "I guess I should explain," she started, looking at her family. "Mark and I got off to a rough start on the plane, but something important happened, and I think it's worth sharing." Over the next hour, Emma and Mark took turns explaining what happened on the flight. They talked about the rocky beginning, the letter Emma had written, and how things had changed. Mark, his voice full of emotion, talked about his brother Alex, and how Emma's words had made him face his own biases. Emma's family listened closely, their faces changing from shock to understanding, and finally to admiration. When Mark was done talking, there was a moment of silence. Max, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. "So, you were a jerk to my sister, but now you're not?" "Max," their mom scolded, but Mark held up his hand. "No, he's right," Mark said with a sad smile. "I was a jerk, more than that really. But your sister showed me a better way." Emma's dad leaned forward, his eyes serious. "What you did was wrong, Mark. But coming here to admit you were wrong, that takes guts." Mark nodded, looking grateful. "Thank you, sir. I'm trying to be better." Emma's letter. It made me realize how much my anger was hurting other people and myself. Emma's mom, coming back with drinks, chimed in. Emma's always had a way of bringing out the best in people. Even when she was little, she was the one who kept the peace. Emma blushed as her dad added, "Remember when you got those kids in the neighborhood to stop picking on that new kid? You even organized a whole welcome committee for him." As her family shared those stories, Emma felt a warm feeling of pride. She'd been so focused on her time in the military that she'd almost forgotten what she used to be like. The girl who always stood up for other people and believed that being kind could make a difference. Mark listened closely, every now and then looking at her with admiration and a little bit of regret. When they stopped talking for a minute, he cleared his throat. "I can't take back what I did on that plane," Mark said, his voice low but steady. "But I can choose how I act from now on. Emma, I meant what I said about the Veteran Support Group. We'd be honored if you'd join us and share your ideas." Emma nodded, thinking, "I'd like that, Mark. Thank you." As the evening went on, the tension in the room started to disappear. Mark told more stories about his brother Alex, stories that had everyone laughing one minute and crying the next. Emma started to see Mark in a new light, not just but as a grieving brother trying to find his way back to hope. By the time Mark stood up to leave, the whole atmosphere in the room had changed completely. Robert shook his hand warmly, and even Max gave him a small nod of approval while they stood at the door. Mark turned to Emma one more time. "Thank you," he said simply, "for everything." Emma smiled, feeling like things had come full circle. "Take care, Mark. I'll see you at the support group." As the door closed behind him, Emma's family gathered around her. Her mom pulled her into a tight hug. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so proud of you." Her dad nodded, agreeing. "You handled that situation with more grace and wisdom than someone your age should even have." Emma felt tears welling up, overwhelmed by all the love and support around her. "I just did what felt right," she said softly. Max gave her a little punch on the arm. "You're pretty cool for a big sister," he mumbled, like he didn't want to admit it. Emma laughed and messed up his hair. "Thanks, Squirt." As the family went back into the living room, a comfortable silence settled in. Emma found herself thinking about everything that had happened to bring her to this moment. From her time in Iraq to the mess on the plane to this peaceful evening with her family, it all felt connected, like it was part of something bigger. Her mom's voice broke through her thoughts. "So Emma, what are you thinking about that job offer?" Emma took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "I'm not sure yet," she admitted. "Part of me wants to stay close to you all, but another part of me feels like there's still something else I'm supposed to be doing out there." Her dad finished her sentence for her, looking like he understood exactly what she was feeling. Emma nodded. "Exactly. After everything that happened today, it feels like there's still work to be done. So many bridges that need building." Her mom reached over and squeezed her hand gently. "Whatever you decide, we'll be behind you all the way. You know that, right?" Emma smiled, her heart swelling with thankfulness. "I do, and that means everything to me." As the conversation turned to lighter things, Emma found herself thinking about what was going to happen next. Even though she didn't know what the future held, she felt like she had a new purpose. Whether she decided to re-enlist, take that job with Mr. Thompson, or do something completely different, Emma knew that everything she'd been through, both on the battlefield and after, had prepared her to make a real difference. Later that night, lying in her old bed, surrounded by all the familiar sights and sounds, a deep peace washed over her. The day had been full of surprises and important moments, but through it all, she'd stayed true to herself and what she believed in. As Emma drifted off to sleep, her last thoughts were about the letter she'd written to Mark. Those words, coming from both pain and hope, had led to a change she never could have expected. It was a good reminder that even when there's prejudice and misunderstanding, being kind and brave can light the way. In the quiet of a night, with all her experiences feeling like a familiar blanket around her, Emma Johnson, lieutenant in the United States Army, daughter, sister, and someone who builds bridges, smiled. Tomorrow was a new day, full of possibilities, and she was ready to face it head on. A soft knock on her door broke through her thoughts. "Come in," she called softly. The door creaked open, and her mom came in, sitting down on the edge of Emma's bed. "I thought you might still be awake," she said quietly. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" Emma sat up, running a D through her hair. "Honestly, I don't know. It's just been such a crazy day." Her mom nodded, understanding. "I can only imagine. You've been through so much, and then you had to deal with that thing with Mark." Emma sighed, leaning back against the headboard. "It's weird, Mom. In some ways, what happened with Mark felt harder than some of the stuff I went through in Iraq." Her mom raised an eyebrow, wanting her to keep talking. "In combat, everything's pretty clear. You have your mission, you have your training, but dealing with someone's deep down beliefs, that's a whole different kind of fight." Her mom reached out and squeezed Emma's hand. "And yet, you handled it like a pro. You found a way to connect with him, to create understanding where there wasn't any before." Emma smiled softly. "I guess all those things you and Dad taught us about putting yourself in other people's shoes and being kind really stuck with me." They sat there quietly for a bit, the moonlight casting soft shadows across the room. Finally, Emma's mom spoke again, her voice gentle but curious. "Honey, I know you've got a lot on your mind with that job offer and whether to re-enlist. Just know that whatever you decide, we're with you all the way. You know that, right?" Emma nodded, feeling a lump in her throat. "I know, Mom, and that means everything to me. I don't know what the right thing to do is." Her mom smiled gently, looking like she knew something Emma didn't. "Maybe there isn't just one right choice. Maybe it's about finding the path that feels right for who you are and what you believe in." As her mom's words sank in, Emma felt something change inside her. A sense of clarity started to form, like the sun coming out after a heavy fog. "You know," Emma said slowly, "today made me realize something. Whether I'm wearing a uniform or not, I can still make a difference. I can still build bridges, challenge what people think, and create understanding." Her mom smiled, beaming with pride. "That's my girl. You've always had a way of bringing people together." They kept talking, remembering things from Emma's childhood, sharing stories about her time away, and dreaming about the future. As the night went on, her mom finally stood up, giving Emma a soft kiss on her forehead. "Get some rest, sweetheart. Tomorrow's a fresh start." As the door closed behind her, Emma lay back down, her mind racing with all the possibilities. Even though she'd had a lot of ups and downs that day, she started to feel excited. Whatever path she chose, she knew she was strong enough to handle it, and that she had her family to help her. The next morning, Emma was up early, all her military habits still kicking in. She went downstairs and found her dad at the kitchen table, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. "Morning, Dad," she said, pouring herself a cup. He looked up, smiling. "Morning, sweetheart. Sleep okay?" Emma nodded as she sat down across from him. "Actually, yeah. I think I've figured out what I'm going to do next." Her dad put down his newspaper, looking right at her. "Oh, want to tell me about it?" Taking a deep breath, Emma started explaining the plan that had come together in her mind during the night. She told him about mixing her military experience with her passion for helping people understand each other. She shared her ideas for working with veteran groups, like that one Mark mentioned, but also reaching out to schools and the community to share her stories and get people talking. As she finished, her dad's smile got even bigger. He reached across the table and took her hand. "Emma," he said, his voice full of emotion, "I couldn't be prouder of you. You've taken everything life has thrown at you and turned it into something beautiful and meaningful." Emma felt tears coming to her eyes. "Thanks, Dad. That means a lot." Over the next few weeks, Emma threw herself into making her dream a reality. She got in touch with Mark and started working with him to make the veteran support group even better. Together, they organized panel talks, getting veterans from all walks of life to share their stories with the community. Emma also reached out to her old high school, offering to talk to students about her experiences, both in the military and in dealing with tough conversations, like the one she had with Mark. Her talks quickly became popular, and other schools started asking her to come speak. Word about what she was doing spread, And soon Emma was being asked to speak at community events, local government meetings, and even a big regional conference about diversity and inclusion. Every time she shared her story, Emma could see how it affected people, how it opened their hearts and minds to new ways of thinking. One sunny afternoon, about 2 months after she'd come home, Emma stood behind a podium at a local community center. The room was packed with all kinds of people, veterans, students, community leaders, and just regular folks. As Emma looked out at the crowd, she felt a wave of emotion welling up inside her. She saw Mark in the front row, nodding to show he supported her. Her family sat nearby, looking proud. Spread throughout the audience were people Emma had met over the past few weeks, people whose lives she touched, people whose minds she'd helped to open. "Good afternoon, everyone," Emma started, her voice steady and confident. "My name is Emma Johnson, and I'm here to talk about bridges, not the ones that cross rivers or canyons, but the ones that connect people's hearts and minds." As she shared her story, from her time in Iraq to that important flight with Mark, she could see how her words were affecting people. People leaned in, nodding like they understood, and some were wiping away tears. "We all have the power to build these bridges," she finished. "It starts with listening and being willing to see the world from someone else's point of view. It's not easy, but it's worth it because when we build these bridges, we create where understanding takes the place of fear, where kindness is stronger than prejudice, and where we see each other as human beings, no matter how different we are." Applause filled the room, and Emma felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This was her new mission, her way of continuing to serve, even now that she wasn't wearing a uniform. She was building bridges, one conversation at a time. That evening, sitting on her back porch and watching the sun go down, Emma thought about all the things that had led her to this place. From the battlefields in Iraq to that mess on the plane, from the letters she'd written to Mark to the talk she was giving now, it all felt connected, like it was part of something bigger. Her phone buzzed, and she saw a text from Mark. "Great speech today," it said. "Alex would have loved it." Emma smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. She thought about all the people she'd reached, all the minds she'd helped to open, and she knew, without a doubt, that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. As the last rays of sunlight painted the sky with shades of orange and pink, Emma Johnson, bridge builder and peacemaker, took a deep breath. The road ahead was now clear, filled with purpose and hope. She was ready for whatever came next, armed with kindness, courage, and a strong belief that understanding each other could change the world. The sound of the screen door creaking open made Emma turn around, and she saw her family coming onto the porch. Her mom was carrying a tray of lemonade, while her dad and Max were setting up chairs in a circle. "Thought you could use some company," her dad said, smiling. As they all sat down, laughter and stories filled the air, mixing with the peaceful quiet of the end of the day. Emma took a deep breath, just enjoying how warm and good she felt in that moment. It wasn't just the house itself that made this place home. It was the never-ending love and support that her family gave her. This was her safe place, the place where she could always come back to, and from which she could keep reaching out to the world, building connections, and making a real difference. The future looked bright, full of new chances and hope. Emma Johnson felt ready to face whatever was coming her way by encouraging understanding, creating connections, and helping people change their hearts, one step at a time.